And as we mentioned earlier, Governor Hickenlooper has nominated Donna Lynne, a top Kaiser Health executive, to be the state's next lieutenant governor. And Donna Lynne is joining us now, and welcome. And we talked about
Thank you, Marshall.
Your role with Kaiser, but this is not your first role in government. How did this come to be?
Well, I've actually spent 20 years in the public sector working in New York City for 4 different mayors, and I loved public service, but I had some opportunities to go into the private sector and did that for about another 20 years, and I've done a lot of work with both Mayor Hickenlooper and Governor Hickenlooper over the last 10 years, and so he and I have a great relationship, and he has been persistent about seeing if I would consider this opportunity.
So it sounds like he's approached you. Did you ever broach the topic with him first?
I never broached the topic with him first. I love the company I work for now. It's a great family. And I've done some work with him on his transition team. And in the course of that, he was looking for a chief operating officer. We couldn't find one. And then once the lieutenant governor resigned, and I think some ideas went through his head, he thought, boy, could I put these 2 things together? And would Donna be the right person for this job?
So we know we're waiting on the approval of the legislature, but Governor Hickenlooper, we know, is going to be leaving office fairly soon. Does that mean you'll run for governor next?
Well, I think as the governor said in the press conference, I think it was something about lightning coming down from the heavens. I think my first job, first of all, is to get approved by the legislature and then to get to know state government and to understand everybody that works for the state in all 4 corners. And that's how I'm just approaching it. It's a day-to-day kind of an activity, and I have committed to the governor, though, that I will be on board until December 31st of 2018 in this capacity, and whatever happens, happens after that.
So that's less of the no that we heard at the news conference last week. Let me ask, why, coming from the private sector, why are you qualified to be governor if you were governor just like that? If something happened with John Hickenlooper, if he took something with Washington and a cabinet position, or he stepped down for whatever reason, why would you be qualified to be governor?
Well, it's funny, one of the questions at the press conference was, well, she doesn't have any political experience, and of course, business is political, maybe with a small p, and certainly the 4 mayors that I worked for, it was very political, although I never ran for office, and I think that was what they meant. So I'm very sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of people who are stakeholders in government and throughout the state, and you need to understand all of them and give them their fair due and their fair hearing and figure out how you bridge the differences across those groups. So I think recognizing that is one. I think also the opportunities that I've had to work for large organizations like Kaiser, which I have accountability for 16,000 employees right now and an $8 billion budget, has given me a perspective about how to run a business. And while government is different, you still owe the taxpayers the same commitment to managing their dollars right. They give us tax revenue and other revenue, and we really need to deliver services effectively.
So our lieutenant governor generally is a fairly low profile figure in government here. How can you affect change? What can you do differently? Is there something that you see out there that you say, I need to tackle now?
Well, first, one of the things that the governor has envisioned as he's created this dual role of lieutenant governor and chief operating officer is that the agencies that are part of his administration would report to me for operating responsibility. I think one of the things that we really want to look at is how do they work together? They don't just work in individual silos. They've got to collaborate around a lot of initiatives. So look at healthcare, for example. There are 4 or 5 agencies that work in healthcare, and how do we make sure they're not doing things that aren't in conflict? The other is being accountable. That's one of the things you learn in business. What you learn is you need to decide what your objectives are ahead of time, and you need to be clear about that accountability. And do that on a regular cycle. So that's one of the things I'm excited about. And I think through that we can, use technology and use collaboration to really make government more efficient.
Well, future lieutenant governor, depending on if the state legislature approves this, and you don't know yet if you have to actually go through confirmation hearings like we would see in Congress.
Yeah, I don't know what the process is. I'm sure I'm going to tackle some of that understanding next week. I've reached out to a number of legislators who I know, and certainly the leadership of both the Senate and the House, as well as other statewide elected officials. But we'll hear about the process. I'm not sure when the last time they filled a vacancy like this, and so I think we're all going to learn over the next couple of weeks.
Right. Is it true you climbed all 14ers in Colorado?
I did. I started when I was 54, and I managed to nail them on right around my
Great.
60th
Wow.
birthday.
Fabulous. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
We'll be right back.